And this is where I always tell people, look, follow the money.
It requires effort. It requires engagement, true engagement. You got to say yes. Some way, somehow, say yes.
That's where the innovation comes. We cannot be complacent.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Move.Crush.count. This is a podcast sponsored by J&L Marketing. I'm excited today. We've got a special guest, the Solutionist.
Yes.
Hailing from the great state of New Jersey. He's in Louisville, Kentucky today. And, you know, there's only one thing that could overshadow the Solutionist, and that's this location we're in right now.
Oh, yeah. It's a space.
All right.
It is a space.
Yeah, we are in the Louisville Louisville Thoroughbred Society. I need to pronounce it right. I say Louisville for the audience outside of Louisville.
Those that don't speak.
When I say Louisville, no, everyone's like, huh? Where?
Yeah, well, you'd know exactly where you were if you were in this room right now.
Oh, yeah.
There's no mistaking it.
This is a society all about thoroughbreds, bourbon, and cigars. It fits. You and I have been talking and hanging out and talking business for a couple years now.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and we go back further than that, but really engaged a lot more the last couple years.
Mm-hmm.
And the bourbon and the cigars, we've turned that into something.
Yeah.
With the fourth box, and so this is a spot. You know, Sydney behind the cameras is going to be taking some cool, hopefully some B-roll.
Baby, the best in the biz, Miss Sid.
And we'll do a little tour of this place because the Fourth Box Live event that's going to be happening in late June is going to be hosted here.
Yep.
If we make it work.
And by the way, I mean we're talking about it right now. We're absolutely going to make it work. If you have not been to the Fourth Box Live, I can't imagine why. But if you're not going to be at the Fourth Box Live towards the end of June, you're missing out on a space that is second to none. You know, Sydney and I were talking about it off camera before about the depth, and the soul was the word that Abby used with respect to the locale. It's got just an ambiance to it. You can feel it when you walk in the door.
Yeah.
You know?
Unbelievable spot. So, you know, Jamil, our president, J&L Marketing, we walked through a couple weeks ago, and we were like, we joined instantly.
Yeah.
I mean, this was
it's intoxicating.
no-brainer.
It really is, because I think it's the perfect blend of a little trip through the past, right? It's got all that heritage and all of the antique feel to it, but there's a lot of amenities that make you know that you are still in present day. So it's got a perfect fusion of those two worlds.
Yep. Now, the only downside to today is we're both stuck right in the middle of a 75 hard challenge.
That is correct. Not to Andy Frisella, you son of a bitch. I just want to say, I can say that, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So
we could say everything.
We are smack dab in the middle of 75 hard, so we cannot enjoy a nice bourbon, which is a tough one. I got to be honest with you. We were talking about it before this. Michael Porro was like throwing his hands up in the air saying, wait, I'm having dinner with you guys, and we're not going to be able to enjoy a bourbon. But it'll make the bourbon that we do enjoy, which is upcoming, that much sweeter. So I'm looking forward to that.
So today we've got a great conversation happening, and no better to talk to about this than the Solutionist, Sandy Cerami.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about how do you revolutionize your business with great coaching.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not talking about life coaching. All right,
I don't even know what that is, by the way.
I don't.
I hear about that.
Confused with people with life.
Not
coaches.
to demean them, but I don't even know what the hell that means. You know, I couldn't life coach anybody.
This is about coaching, mentorship with business, right? And I think there's a big difference between. Sometimes there can be some confusion, and I can't wait to pick your brain on this. The difference between someone that wants a true mentor, a true coach, someone that holds them accountable, and that's probably the key differentiator, probably.
Sure.
Versus someone you're just working with someone that cheers you on.
Yeah, well,
cheerleader.
I think to separate the two, I thought a lot about this when you sent me, some of the thought starters. I thought a lot about what is the difference between cheerleading and coaching, and the couple of words that came to mind. First one was honesty.
Yeah.
Right. A lot of times, if you're a cheerleader, the team could be down 30 points, going into the fourth quarter, and the cheerleaders is using the same cheers they were using to start the game. So honesty, I think, is important. Accountability for certain. But then I thought about what genuine inspiration really is. And so we'll talk more about it as we get deeper. But it was a great way to frame the conversation. What's the difference between the two?
Yeah. So, if anybody's been following me for the last year or two, there's no way you haven't run into Sandy. We've done a lot of joint things together. Consider him a good friend, and even better, he helps me, coaches us, not only myself, mentors me, but I rely on him for great input, but so does our company. And so, I highly recommend him, but there might be some people that, shame on me if they don't know me. I'm sure there's a lot more people that don't know me than do. So,
well, I don't know. I keep drafting off of you, buddy. With all due respect, I don't want to turn into like just a giant love fest. But the fact of the matter is that a gravitational pull brought us together. Jamil included in that conversation as well. I go back to August of coming up on 4 years ago, when we just almost by serendipitous nature got together to take a look at a platform you guys had built out. And I knew right then and there that we were going to do something. We even said it during that phone call. It took us a little while to pull the trigger and start to do some things together, but the collaboration between the two of us and really Jamil, the three of us, has inspired me to step my game up. I have to be honest with you. So I'm going to throw it right back at you and tell you I'm a better version of myself as a result of being as tight as we become over the last 3 years.
And so let's give the audience who does not know you, all right, a little bit of history of who you are, what's your background, your education like, how did you get all this knowledge, and then we'll kind of dive right into the differences between coaching and cheerleading and the importance I think it makes, however we want to refer to it, a consultant, right, a coach, a mentor, in terms of helping people grow their business.
Sure.
So what's your background?
I'm a car brat. Like we've talked about this a ton. I am a third generation car brat, if you will. Was introduced to the business by my dad and my grandfather when I was, literally 5, 6, 7 years of age. Going into the dealership on Saturdays when I wasn't in school. During those days, I was taking what I would consider work breaks, meaning I would spend the majority of my time watching the Saturday morning cartoons, engorging myself on the snacks that came out of the vending machine. And every once in a while, I hear my dad's footsteps coming down the stairs into the lounge area, and I'd run into the shop and grab a hose and start washing wheels and tires to make me think that I was really earning my keep, that $3 I got for the day or whatever it was. But I knew pretty early on that I wanted to follow in my dad and my grandfather's footsteps.
Why is that?
I don't know.
What clicked in your head, or what was it about that?
The earliest memories I have it was time that I got a chance to spend with my dad.
Yeah.
Period. It was just that opportunity to spend more time with him. I would have done it on the surface of the moon if I had to.
Yeah.
Right. So going to the dealership was intoxicating to me as a young kid. Yeah. Now you throw in the new cars, you throw in all the things that are just neat about a car dealership, and I was hooked from the giddy up. And truthfully, I was not a great student. I tell this to folks all the time. I went to college on they called it the Blutarsky Scholarship Program, sponsored by Anheuser-Busch. A nod to my man, Randy Brinkman. Stole that joke from him years ago and continued to use it. But I spent 1 year at college because that was what everybody else was doing, and realized that it really wasn't the place I wanted to be. I desperately wanted to be back at the dealership, and I don't know a damn thing about cars, by the way. So I'm in the car business, and if you start talking engine blocks and this year car, and that stuff really escaped me over the course of the last 33 years. It's the people.
Yeah.
I love the people end and the business end of the business more than anything else.
It's a unique industry. It definitely has everyone's got a great sense of humor. It's a fun
You better
business.
have a sense of humor in this business.
Well, how else can you explain wanting to hang out and work for 12 hours a day?
Absolutely.
And then it's time to go home and you still hang out a little bit.
Yeah.
It's because you don't want to leave. It's intoxicating.
There's no question. And I think we struggle, those of us that are as passionate as we are about the business, struggle with the folks that are in the business that look at it as a career and more of a business than it is something that's at the DNA level for us. And so that'll speak right to what we're going to talk about today in terms of getting to the heart of what's important to the folks that are working with us.
Yeah, and I can remember back when I was young, you're right, when the new cars would come in, you got the new models, and when you're young, the newer cars today, it takes a different type of car probably to excite you and I today versus then. But if a new sport model came out back then, for me when I was younger, this is 2 or 3 years ago. But 30 years ago for you, 30, 40, maybe 50 years ago, whatever.
When they were cranking at the front of the car, yeah, absolutely. I remember Henry Ford told me one time.
So let me ask you though. So you mentioned your dad. what other coaches or mentors did you have along the way to help you develop the skills? Because it couldn't have all been your dad.
No, to be honest with you, the soft skills were my dad, all right, my grandfather. They taught me about the people end of the business, how to appreciate people.
Yeah.
And I think that is at the core of everything that I do. I genuinely value the interaction and the engagement with people. I like people. I never make any apologies for it. Sometimes it gets me into a little bit of trouble because I'll err on the side of giving people a little bit too much benefit of the doubt. But I would much rather err on that side than on the other side and be the ultimate car guy, Northeast, New Jersey, New York Metro car skeptic, because I think that you miss out on some tremendous opportunities with people. It has forced me to have a lot more patience with people. But in terms of other mentors in the business, I mean, the first one off the top of my head is Ed Abrazizi, who was our general manager at the dealership for years. And I reference him all the time. The lessons that he taught me about life and about the car business, I carry with me and I share to this day. I look at myself as a conduit, to be honest with you. I don't have a lot of original thoughts. I have a lot of things that I've remanufactured and repurposed over the course of the last 10 years or so.
Well, you've taken things and fine-tuned them and made them more relevant,
Sure.
possibly, and
More relevant.
there's constantly an evolution, right,
Mm-hmm.
of how to close better, how to pitch better, how to qualify better. It is all the same things we've been
Yeah.
taught over the years, but it's been refined over and over again, right?
I
to
would
where
say-
it just keep getting better.
The word that I would use, because you're pulling at the right thread, is me personally. This is how my philosophy on business, and it could be automotive, it could be anything. Is I want to humanize the business. I want to make sure the human element is predominantly what drives all of my behavior and interaction with clients and prospective clients. Ultimately, at the end of the day, it's a people-based business. No matter what you're selling, no matter what you're doing, at the heart of everything we do is people.
Yeah.
And so I want to make sure I stay true to that. And that's something, again, I go back to my dad and my grandfather, certainly Ed. I mean, I could give you names of people that nobody in the audience would even know who they were, but guys like Vinny Nubile, who taught me, as a young man, how to effectively take care of people the right way as a service advisor, right? I could go back to John DiStefano, who taught me how to do the job the right way in new car prep. I mean, all the little things that I pulled along the way about taking care of details and making sure that I focused on relationships with people, I learned from people that nobody in the audience would ever have heard of, and they've had a tremendous, profound impact on me over my career. So
I like how you bring up humanize, because and it doesn't matter what industry you're in. Any B2C business, the trick is, how do you humanize when everything keeps going more and more online, right? So I think the companies that find a very good way to do that and improve the experience that each customer has and give them the information they want online without losing that, without dehumanizing them,
Yeah.
right, or the business, I think they win.
So you make a great point. This is great for right now because you FOMO'd me, the fear of missing out. You did a little FOMO peer pressure on me with respect to Clubhouse recently.
Yeah.
And by the way, if you're not on Clubhouse, figure out a way to get on,
Yeah.
for sure, because it's a tremendous environment. The knowledge transfer on Clubhouse has been amazing. And so I'm going to reference Chip Perry. Chip Perry, who, if you're in the business, you know who Chip is. He said something in a Clubhouse room this past week that really hit me right here, right? Because it spoke to what we're looking to accomplish right now in this business. There's a lot of folks that are going to end-to-end selling processes or single point of contact selling processes. And that's, people are looking at it as evolutionary. I look at it as a trip back in time. We're going back to the way the business originally was put together. And one of the things that Chip said was that technology has to be a catalyst, not a replacement for that.
Correct.
And I think that his perspective and his vision is something I'm keenly tuned into right now, and I'm anxiously awaiting the opportunity to talk to him personally and get his feedback on that. But I think that's a lot of what we see happening today is digitization of our business should not dehumanize it, ultimately. We should be focused on the people piece of it.
Can you say that again, five or six times?
I don't think so. I'm going to have to watch the replay when Miss Sid shows me the dailies here, as they say, because I think you're right. That there's something to what I just said, and It is. We can't allow the digitization of the business to replace the human element, right?
It's impressive. You've said that twice without having to really think about it.
I had to think about it. You didn't see the smoke coming out of my ears. I promise you I thought about it.
So let me ask you this question. So how long have you been coaching? Do you consider yourself, what do you consider yourself? I should ask that first.
I consider myself a chameleon. And by that I mean, I want to work with people where they are in their life and in their profession. And so a lot of times I have to make sure that I'm paying attention to where they are so that the conversation that I'm having with them when I'm attempting to coach them to improvement is at the same pace that they're at right now in terms of their evolution or their growth as a professional. So I think of myself as a chameleon coach, if you will. I'm able to change shades or adjust to the person that I'm working with at that point in time, or the company that I'm working with.
So one of the things I've noticed is social media has gotten more and more popular, especially as business people, whether it's salespeople, business leaders, everybody's on it, trying to gain attention, marketing themselves, brand themselves, right? Pushing content out there. The term mentorship, to me, has not taken on a new meaning, but has gained more significance and more value, more importance. I think more people are looking for mentors, more people are open to mentorship, which are very similar to coaching. And I guess the question I have for you, you've been doing this a while now, what are some of the subtle changes that you've seen over the years in terms of the expectations of the people that you're working with? You know, how have their expectations changed, say, from 10 years ago to today as a result of all this? Maybe they haven't.
I think they have. I think that, so some of the great things about social media, I'll speak to it from a positive perspective. I think while we know there's a lot of puffery and a lot of peacocking that's going on social media right now, I think what it also does is provide people with a glimpse of what is possible for any of us, okay? Now, as I said, the Achilles heel to that statement is that there are a lot of people out there that there's not a lot of substance behind the posts that we see. And so I'm a big believer in authenticity, making sure that it's true to what's actually going to happen in real life or what we'll encounter with somebody in real life. And so I personally made it a point that any of the content that I've put up there is designed to inspire people to think a little bit differently, think a little bit better, maybe a little bit more healthy than they are previously, but that it's authentic and it comes from a real rooted experience that I've had in my own life. I don't want it to be some pie in the sky or something that they can't ever realistically aspire to. I think it's given people the opportunity to think bigger and think better. I mean, I'm going to reference GC right now, right? So I've yet to meet GC. I know I will at some point in time, and we're going to have a real conversation, but he's at such a level that, if you're not inspired by what he's done over the last 10, 11 years, utilizing social media, you're missing it. That doesn't mean you have to be GC. It doesn't mean you have to aspire to the same level of execution and results that he's seen. But if he doesn't get you...
when he says GC, he's referring to Grant Cardone.
If you don't know who GC is, I shouldn't have to say the name. You'll go figure it out. Can we say Google that shit on this podcast?
You can say anything.
You go Google that shit. You'll find him. If you can't find Grant, then you ain't looking. And I don't mean that in a form of absolute deference, okay? Because he and I have differing philosophies on a lot of things, but you can't argue with his success. Right. And he is authentic. Yeah. What you see is what you get with Grant. There is no puffery. It's for real.
And he's always on.
He is.
He's always on.
100%. And so my point is ultimately the reason I bring him up is because he has given a lot of us the pathway to something bigger and something better, and given us permission, if you will, to give ourselves permission to think bigger.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's a big piece of what you see on social media today. As long as it's authentic and genuine and comes from a positive perspective, I'm all for it. When it becomes puffery and bullshit and it impacts somebody negatively, then I am not a fan.
So we talked a little bit in the intro about the difference between coaching and cheerleading. Mm-hmm. And listen, there's a time and place where cheerleading, I think, can be important.
Yes.
But what is the difference? Which one's more important and why?
Okay, so when I think about cheerleading, every once in a while somebody's at a point in their career or in their life where they need to feel better about who they are and what they're attempting to achieve. And that's usually when they've experienced defeat or a setback or disappointment. And a lot of times you're going to need somebody to be honest with you. That's the coaching piece of it that comes in, where we look at reality and we assess, where did we miss the mark? What could we have done differently, or what did we do too much of that would have helped us deliver the result that we were looking for? That's the coaching piece of it, giving them the how and the why.
Yeah.
The cheerleading piece is picking somebody up when they really need it the most. And I think cheerleading kind of folds in underneath coaching at some point in time. Every coach has to be a bit of a cheerleader, but I think you do a lot more coaching than you do cheerleading. Cheerleading is like, hey, you know that better is possible. Cheerleading is, do you know what you bring to the table? Here are the 3 things that you are not thinking about in terms of what you bring to the table and why you're going to be a success moving forward. Let's work on those. That's the cheerleading piece. It's not the tell somebody something that isn't true. It's like help them identify the things about themselves that they're not seeing, because all they're hearing in the 6-inch space in between the ears is, I just failed, I missed my mark, I didn't hit my objective.
What's good? What does, in your opinion, what does great coaching look like? What is it?
It looks
And
like,
I know it's different for every person. You already said you're a chameleon, right? So
yeah, but it's patience.
okay.
It's a lot of patience.
Why? Well, how do you mean?
Because we live in a world that desperately seeks instant gratification. If we talk about automotive specifically, we live in 30-day cycles. Thinking that the last day of the month is the last day of the world, right? And I get it. I like to say it this way. This is what coaching looks like to me. You have to blend something the Chinese people are very good at, which is having the patience of 1,000 years to develop something, okay? But you have to fuse it.
That's why I'm not Chinese.
That's right, exactly. Nobody's going to accuse you of being patient like that. And look, that is the extreme, right? But so I want to juxtapose 2 extremes. One is the patience of 1,000-year thinking, and you have to fuse that with a daily sense of urgency to go out and get some things done, right? So you have to know the difference, right? And so sometimes you have to wait for the results to catch up with the effort that's put forth. Mm-hmm. And because of the fact that we live in a world where we're under a lot of pressure to deliver results instantaneously, we take our eye off of the ball and we miss little points of progress along the way that we can champion with the people that we're coaching.
What would you say, you're coaching a variety of businesses, a lot of different business leaders.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say are the most common, the big challenges that are the most common, I guess is what I'm asking, that these business leaders or businesses are facing today?
The complete disillusionment with a perceived fact that they've got to be perfect, or they've got to embody, the perfect
So
example.
how is that trying to be perfect? How is that negatively impacting? Why is that? Why do you say that's a challenge?
Because I think because nobody is. Let's start there. Like nobody is.
Yeah.
And so what you do is again, I go back to working with people where they are. You set the mark so high, people become defeated immediately because they feel like they can never achieve that, number one. Number two, you become less objective because you now hold yourself to a standard that you have to live up to. And I'm all for holding a high standard for ourselves personally. But I think what ends up getting lost is our opportunity to show vulnerability. All right, and that doesn't mean we got to be in a corner cowering, crying into our Cheerios because something didn't go our way. I think vulnerability, in terms of our ability to share authentic, deep challenges that we've faced in our lives and in our careers, so that we can help people understand that we've gone through it as well, and so that we can demonstrate real empathy for where they are. Now, that doesn't mean that is absent of accountability, because the other piece is, in order to get where I'm at, you got to do what I did or something similar. So we have to give them a pathway to get there ultimately.
And I would think, going back to what you said about trying to be perfect, when someone's trying to be perfect, it probably causes them to take less action over the course of their business career, because they're so worried about, they're analyzing so much, paralysis through analysis, right? They're overanalyzing. They're so worried about launching something. And quite honestly, how many times have we launched a product, and I think Google does this as well, but how many times have we launched a product and a year later it's selling great and it looks nothing like what we launched. And the reason it doesn't look anything like that is because now customers are using it. And if you're doing a good job, right, you're getting feedback, especially the negative feedback about a process or a product, and you're quick to change it and improve it. And so, man, if you're worried about being perfect, it can kind of restrict you from taking some chances.
Hell yeah.
And the wealthiest people, they take chances.
So we talked about it just this morning with your team over at J now. And we're going to simplify it. It's the fear of failure. It's the fear of making a mistake. We just landed another Mars rover. Okay, and I'm not a science guy, as you know. I'm not going to demonstrate my academic acumen here, I promise you. But the one thing I do know about that is we didn't just kind of like aim the Mars rover at Mars and just fire away and just shoot it there and then wake up like, a year and a half later and say, okay, all right, we're going to drop it in right now. Like, there were literally tens of thousands of course corrections over that journey to keep it on track to get it there. And I think that success, as we say, is not a straight line. It's cliche because it's true. Not only is it not a straight line, it's not always pulled taut, right? Sometimes it's this way. We're making progress, we're moving backwards every once in a while. And so you have to understand the rhythm of success moves in both directions. Sometimes you're taking a couple of steps back before you take the big leap forward.
You seem to have a lot of knowledge on this. I have to ask, what are some of the biggest challenges the Mars rover had in getting
I just want to be there for the celebration. Like, forget about how they got it there, for God's sakes. 2 + 2 is a challenge in my book once in a while. But
So what are some of the biggest opportunities you think that a lot of business leaders, so you're going in, you're coaching, right? What are some of these big opportunities that a lot of business leaders that you work with, what are they missing? What are some of the most common opportunities you see missed that you have to kind of guide them to?
I'll go back to the 2 things that I said. First thing is patience.
Yeah.
Right. The patience piece of it is don't expect people to be at their highest level of performance or production so quickly. Right. Give them an opportunity to assimilate to the culture in your organization. Sometimes that takes time, and sometimes people struggle with fitting in a little bit. We want them to stand out. There's no question about it in terms of performance and production, but I think having the patience to work through with folks, assimilating into your culture in your organization is one of the areas I see where we have missed opportunity. The other piece is the vulnerability piece, is that you want people to understand that the human side of your business is open and available for everybody to see, and that the folks that have achieved the highest levels of leadership in your organization are those that have been through the tough wars, been through tough experiences, have had a taste of defeat and disappointment, and have been able to persist and persevere through it. And because they've done that, they can now help show others the way.
So you go into a new business, new client of yours, and their main goal is, I want a long-term vision, I want to succeed long-term, but I don't have the luxury of not succeeding short-term. So I've got to succeed short-term and long-term. Where do you want them focusing their efforts first?
I think a lot of it depends on what type of business that they're in. That will certainly impact how we go about achieving those results. It's hard to serve 2 masters, right? I mean, that's, again, another cliche because it's true. I think you have to prioritize. Sometimes you can build something underneath a structure in your organization that already exists. All right, that's another way to actually to develop or to actually create change within an organizational structure, is to build something completely different underneath it. Not a great example, but an example of what I'm talking about. You take a look at what happened with Saturn and General Motors. They completely built a different operation. There's still a lot of things that are done today that came out of the Saturn experiment, if you will, for lack of a better way of putting it, that are inherent in what we do operationally in the automobile business today. That's a good example of building something underneath an existing structure. And you talk about an age-old structure. General Motors, old GM, no better example than that.
I think companies can become complacent for a lot of reasons, right? I think you could have just an owner, a CEO, a president that's been highly successful for a long time. It's easy to kind of get fat and relax.
Sure.
Right? Not to have as much drive. There's all kinds of reasons. Maybe they don't have a lot of competition. I mean, there could be a lot. It could be internal or external reasons, right? So I also think business leaders, and you probably see this a lot, get stressed for a lot of different reasons, right? They're trying to grow sales. They're trying to grow revenue. And I think when we're so stressed out about that, it really prevents us from living the way we want and feeling free and enjoying the journey, enjoying the process, right? When we're stressed, we don't live, we don't lead. We're not our best self when it comes to leading the organization. So what are the most, I'm curious, what are the most common reasons you see companies not growing as fast as they should?
I'm going to give you...
Because I think that's one of the root causes to a business leader's stress.
Absolutely. I'll give you the old foot stomp and amen on that. And I'm going to give you the best answer I possibly can based on what I've seen. Too much focus on external competition and not enough focus on internal improvement.
When we stop, and I'm going to quote a book, I don't know which book, you recommended, I want to say it's Building a Brand Story from Donald Miller. And I think it was in this, I think it was in this book. Might have another book mixed up with another one, but when we stop losing sleep over the success of our business and start losing sleep over the success of our customer,
bingo.
The stress goes away, because lo and behold, when we start doing that for the customer, the other stuff just kind of comes.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I shot a post up on Instagram this week that basically said that, if you are able to bring value to your clients, you're going to be able to make a living. But if you can bring value to your clients, you'll earn a fortune. And I think that speaks to that, because the focus becomes less about achieving our success and more about fueling the success of our clients. It's, by the way, objectivity, right? Third party. When you introduce third party into any conversation like that, the objectivity increases dramatically, and our ability to make decisions objectively versus subjectively is hands down easier and far more beneficial to each of us.
Why do you think there's business leaders out there that don't feel comfortable leading as their best self?
I go back to the vulnerability piece. I mean, because there's such pressure, whether it's, and a lot of times it's self-induced, to project a specific or particular image to their people or to their customers. I go back to that fear-based emotion. They fear showing any weakness whatsoever. They feel like showing a sign of weakness.
Now, is this something you came up with, or have you read or watched, or have you learned this? Because it's interesting you go to vulnerability here. I was watching, in our company, once a week we do a lot of YouTube, 10 to 15 minute motivation, a bunch of different topics. And I think, is it Brene Brown?
Yeah.
Okay. Outstanding speaker.
Great TED Talk speaker.
Yes, and that we watched a TED Talk with her, and it was on vulnerability. And it's interesting you say vulnerability when it comes to not feeling comfortable leading their best self or causing stress from a lack of growth, because she says vulnerability is the source and or mother of creativity.
Wow.
And the creativity is what spurs innovation,
Sure.
right? And it's what spurs, and it's a lot of times what can get you out of ruts or get you growing faster.
Yeah.
So it's interesting you say that, and that's why I bring that up.
So I'll answer your question this way. Yes, it's a lot of what I have read, a lot of what I've digested in terms of content over the course of the last 10 or 11 years, but it's something that I lived, right? So Mary and I, my wife Mary and I, when my grandfather passed away in 2001, and it was just a hellacious time. It was May of 2001, just before 9/11, and we went through a bit of an estate challenge, right? So we took everything we had, literally everything we had, and liquidated all of it to buy the dealership, and we put all the chips to the center of the table, and we took a shot. And the truth of the matter is, we had a great run until we didn't. Yeah. And in 2007, 2008, when GM really went through their troubles, I had made in my own judgment, some decisions that I would probably rethink today, knowing what I know. Hindsight being 20/20. But I was chasing the dream, and who's not willing to invest everything if they really believe that strongly in the dream that they've had?
Well, you're emotionally attached to it too.
Bingo.
So sometimes we make, as business leaders, it's hard to separate the emotional decision from the logical one.
Absolutely, and that was, for me, it was 30 plus years of emotion wrapped up in that decision.
Yeah.
But I'm also going to tell you something right now that I probably have not articulated on camera ever. Some of it was fear-based as well, because I had tied so much of my own personal being up in what I did and not who I was, that I was fearful of having to go out and do this without having the dealership to kind of define who I was as a person. And I learned a really valuable lesson, an expensive one, okay, like a 7-figure lesson as a result of that. And in 2009, when everything just fell apart for us financially, thank God I married the right woman. I mean, my wife Mary, I tell you right now, she said the 4 magic words that changed my life, which was, I believe in you. And I thank her for that every day, whether I do it overtly or not.
I thought you were going to say, get off your ass.
Yeah, that was it too. Truthfully, this is important for the audience to know, because she did say that to me. She's like, I walked into the back door of my house with tears streaming down my cheeks in May of 2009. I literally had $11 in my pocket. I mean, I had a $5 bill with 6 singles wrapped around it. I had change in a little drawer on my dashboard of a 2004 Cadillac CTS with 66,000 miles on it. I remember looking at the gas gauge. I had 3/4 of a tank of gas, and I was saying to myself, God, man, what am I going to do? I had the foreclosure papers for my house in the seat next to me. It was a tough time. And all I was playing in my head was this, I'm a failure voice. Like, you risked everything, you disappointed everybody, you've cost a lot of people money, time, opportunity. You let down 60 plus employees that had been with the organization, some of them as many as 35, 40 years. Mm-hmm. So it was a tough time. And so I go back to 2001, I made the decision I did, we made the decision that we did for one reason, I made the decision for 2 reasons. Mary was supporting the dream that I had, but I was making the decision to avoid the fear of what am I going to do without the dealership? I'm going for it. So I pushed, as I said, we pushed all the chips to the center of the table, and it cost us. Now, to your point about where did I learn the vulnerability piece?
The most successful people don't have a plan B.
There was no plan B, buddy.
Yeah.
Plan B, we developed plan B when plan A went to shit, to be honest with you.
You can look at Elon Musk. He sold, he sold his first company or 2 for a lot of money.
Yeah.
But he put all those chips and gambled
Into
them
the next
all.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
no, listen, immense respect for him. I know that there are some folks out there that are not big fans of his, but I respect him for that, for sure. I'm going to get to the vulnerability piece right now, which is in 2009, I'm forced to reinvent myself. And so I use that story, which is authentic and true, to share with other folks that, when you think it's the end, when you think there's no place else to go, you have to be creative. You better figure out another place to go. And I had the good fortune of being introduced to Mary and finding her, and she was the catalyst, and literally her foot right in my ass and said, go figure it out. You're a smart person. Why are you here with tears streaming down your cheeks? Go figure it out. And that was the beginning, quite honestly, of everything.
When you say, when you have nothing left, there's more to go. It reminds me, so one of my mentors and coaches early on was Anthony Robbins.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so Tony Robbins.
Great story. His story is awesome.
It kind of makes me laugh at this. He goes, everyone thinks you're dead broke at 0. He goes, you can go way past 0.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah. No question. Yeah, no, listen.
And when you're, in your situation, there's a lot of debt. So like you said, you put your house on the line, you put other
Everything.
things on the line. But that's a great share with everybody here, because
it's the truth.
Yeah.
It's the truth. And the reason that I'm able to use it to help share that experience with others so that they can see more for themselves is because we've come out the other side, right?
Yeah.
So wasn't easy, but I have to tell you, it's been fun. I've had more fun in the last 11 years of my career than I did the first 21. And I never in a million billion years thought that I would say that. And part of it is this, these experiences today,
These
that people,
are fun.
This is great. And I'm going to go back to how we kicked off, our friendship. Our friendship is special to me and unique. And I tell you that because It was amazing to me that we had not crossed paths earlier. Now, I was a client of yours for years.
Yeah.
Your brother Tom was
Yeah.
my guy, and I would see you from afar at NADA. Never did I.
Well, I was working, Sandy. I mean, Tom was.
You
well,
were
Tom was
standing around with beautiful, gorgeous J&L assistants, and Tom was closing deal after deal, for God's sakes. Let's be honest. But the truth of the matter is, in a million billion years, I'm never thinking that I'm sitting here having these conversations with you.
Yeah.
Yet here we are. And so we've had this opportunity to collaborate together. And as I say, I'm inspired by you. I'm inspired by Jamil, the people that we've had a chance to meet together, the Rob Ruths of the world. Like, those people, they get my blood pumping.
Yeah.
Like,
they're innovative people. They're courageous people.
Yeah.
Brian Benstock said something. I texted him earlier because I'm working on something, and I wanted to get a mindset, a drive.
Who better
not
to ask than
a
him?
goal is wrong word. But I asked a lot of these people, some of the people you've mentioned, how do you want to be described by your peers?
Mm-hmm. It's a great question to ask.
I loved Brian's answer. He goes, I want to be dissatisfied. I want to be viewed as always dissatisfied but not discouraged.
It's tremendous.
And I thought that was, because I haven't heard that from anybody else.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a really good way to explain. You're just driven. You always
Only
want
wish I
more.
said it myself.
But it doesn't mean that if you're not, you know.
It's perfectly articulated, right?
Yeah.
And so that's people that are high achievers, like Brian, great example. He's got such purpose.
Yeah.
There's nothing's by accident with Brian Benstock that I've noticed. Another guy I have yet to meet, but I know that I will at some point have the opportunity to sit down and talk to him because I just want to pick their brain. I feel really selfish, to be honest with you, the folks that are out there like that. I put Rob Ruth on that list too. Like, I'll pick up the phone, call him, and
Well,
just...
all of these guys have there's very common themes. They're innovative people. They're courageous people. They're driven.
and they're generous.
They're generous. They're humble.
But I think that's what keeps the
You know,
drive.
some people might hear some of the names that we've mentioned and say, well, they're maybe not so humble, but they are humble.
Oh,
They are humble.
don't mistake. I always say this: don't mistake accomplished for not being humble.
Correct.
Right?
That is correct.
The two can mutually and peacefully coexist
Well,
with the
and-
right
and
mindset.
Like the Louisville Lip, the great Muhammad Ali said, it isn't bragging when you can back it up.
Bingo, baby. No doubt.
So-
If you're doing it, there's nothing wrong with talking about it.
Who's your hero when it comes to business growth, and why?
Wow. My hero when it comes to business growth and why.
Now, I want to say that I'm going to let's eliminate myself.
Well, let me tell you something, buddy.
All right, I want to make sure we
hesitate-
do that.
No, you are
No,
absolutely.
I'm kidding.
I know you're breaking my chops right now, but I'm going to tell you something. And this is not breaking your chops or blowing smoke up your kilt. And by the way, he does wear a kilt. I've seen it. It's a terrifying sight, but it's one of Scott's off-camera hobbies. You are absolutely on the list. As I said to you, like I was drawn to our friendship because you inspire me and how you attack things. I love that. But I hesitate to use the word hero. Inspiration is the word that I like better because hero creates this almost superhuman positioning and framing of the conversation. People that have real people like that bleed just like the rest of us that have achieved incredible things in their life. I certainly look at Brian if you want to talk about automotive, like how he drives his team. Peter Cooper, a guy that I've yet to meet but was humble and generous enough to reach out to me just because we happened on each other in Clubhouse. Another guy that has had some incredible success. Yeah. David Spizak, another gentleman I have yet to meet. Clubhouse, but I keep going back to it, but introduced to some people that, gosh, I look at them and say, what amazing achievement, how humble they are. You can get that feel because you can get that off of Clubhouse, different than the other social media. It sounds like we're investors, round 2 or round series 1, series 2 investors in Clubhouse.
I would like to be a round 1 or 2.
Hell yeah, baby, no doubt. That'll be,
No one approached me.
And a significant, 7-8 figure payday for those cats. But those folks I look at. Ray Katina, Ray Katina he's a personal friend of my family. He's a guy that started with nothing and has built this incredible brand and empire, and he takes care of people, is another guy that I look at. But again, I hesitate to use the word hero. I like to tell you I'm inspired by people. Tony Robbins, for certain. GC, talk about GC, what he's been able to do. Brene Brown, with the impact and influence that she has delivered to the marketplace has been incredible. So there's a lot of folks out there that I look at that inspire me to do better and to become better.
What final thoughts do you have that might motivate business leaders out there to help them scale their business, grow it?
It's very simple for me, is don't overestimate the importance of data and technology, and don't underestimate the importance of the people that power it.
How do you mean?
I mean, for any one of us in a business that sells to people on a B2C basis, or even on a B2B basis, our ability to connect with the folks that are making decisions is what drives the success of our business.
Yeah.
You can have all the data in the world that can make you a bit smarter, give you an edge over your competitors potentially, but if I send somebody in that's got the wrong heart and the wrong technique and approach to a one-on-one situation to go in and put a deal together, even though they've got all the data in the world, if they can't connect with that buyer, that deal's probably not getting done, or if it is, it's getting done at a discount.
Yeah.
The folks that know how to connect get paid all the money.
Yeah, great point. That's why they call him the Solutionist.
No, I don't know about that, but that's just been my experience, is that it's people matter most.
Well, I want to thank you for an incredible interview.
Thank you, bud. I appreciate it. Always good to hang with you.
It is. I love it. Motivates me to talk to you, and you and I have collaborated on a lot of different things, and the ideas tend to flow. Some of our own things, joint venture stuff that we've worked on, whether it's Fourth Box or D-Win, have just come from just talking out loud.
Two people having a conversation.
Yeah, and so I want to make sure that people go to your website.
Well, easiest way to get me, let's talk about how to contact. My phone number, I get a lot of positive responses to phone numbers. It's 201-753-1234, and everybody says 1234. Why? Because it's that easy to remember, and the steps should be as easy as 1234. Website, www.sandycerami.com.
Spell Cerami for me.
Cerami. It's ceramic without the C at the end.
Yep.
And then, on any of the social media platforms, the relevant ones in my world are LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and Clubhouse at this point. I'm not a TikToker yet.
And you can catch him on Clubhouse at Sandy Cerami.
That's it. Everything is basically at Sandy Cerami. If you
Yep.
plug that in, we can connect there. And by the way, I don't run the meter. If somebody's got a question that they want answered or a challenge that they're facing, my first inclination is not to run the meter. My first inclination is let me get to know that person, and is there something that I can share with them that's going to help them get to the next level, get out of a rut, get out of a slump that they're in, or just change their mindset with a simple conversation. I don't run the meter for stuff like that. I was at a place in my life back in 2009, 2010, where I needed the help from good people like I needed oxygen.
Yeah.
Right? I wasn't able to breathe at that point. So I want to do that for other people. That is something that's become a lifelong mission for me.
That's great. So I also want you to visit move.crush.count. That way you can catch up on all prior episodes of the podcast. And you can follow us on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. We're on LinkedIn. And our man here, the Solutionist, Sandy Cerami, he's part of all those groups. So if you've got questions for him, you can also reach out to him there. Make sure you tag him in your comment or your post. I'm also on Clubhouse.
Yeah.
Mine's not as easy as yours. I had to put Scott, my initial T, as in Thomas, Joseph. So
was there another Scott Joseph out there?
Joseph. What's that?
Was there another Scott Joseph out there on Clubhouse?
I didn't even do it. I wanted it to be the same as my Instagram, and
be consistent.
And there was one on on Instagram, so I had to add the middle initial.
Now we can't find Jamil on Clubhouse yet, huh?
No, he doesn't have an iPhone. I've told him, and
Jamil still ain't on Clubhouse.
No.
We're gonna work on that. We're gonna work on that.
His loss is our gain.
I like it.
All right, so another thing. Follow us on Clubhouse, because Sandy and I are going to start doing something daily with what we're going to call the Daily Winning Information Network, D-Win. And we're going to bring up a lot of thoughtful topics that I think will get business, that's going to focus heavily on business growth. And man, these conversations are going to go a lot of different ways, and we expect a lot of great participation from a lot of great people. and
The
getting
knowledge
good
share
feedback.
there, as and by the way, again, there's another debt of gratitude that I have for you is getting me on and into that platform. The knowledge share
Goes
that
right
goes
up
on
your
there
alley.
is tremendous. The knowledge share is amazing.
Yeah.
But go in there being prepared to give as well as get, right? Because we don't want people just going in there, looking to take. Go in there, don't be afraid to raise your hand and get involved in the conversations and discussions that are going on in Clubhouse right now. Because I've taken literally 25, 30 pages worth of notes over 2 weeks. So
It's been incredible.
good stuff.
So I want to thank everybody for joining us on Move, Crush, Count. See you on the next episode. Have a great day.